We're back with more Madden 22 news as EA just dropped a ton of new info on their website, so we're going to read over it and kind of talk about what's going on. Now, if you are new to the channel, however, and you don't want to miss out on any of the future Madden 22 news or updates, including more gameplay that's going to be coming soon, I know you guys want to see that, make sure to subscribe, turn the bell icon on so you don't miss any of these videos when they go live. You know, more than half of you that watch the videos actually aren't subscribed, and a lot of you don't know that, and you could be missing out on some of these important videos, and you can always unsubscribe at any time if you get tired of the videos. So let's dive into the news for today. We've got a bunch of info about the face of the franchise career mode. Some people love this mode, some people think this mode's a complete waste of time. So depending on who you are, you'll be interested or not interested in this info, but there's some things that are sounding better about it this year, but we'll talk about all that as we read through it. So let's start off with the road to the draft. It says here, in Madden NFL 22's new road to the draft, you are a generational prospect in the 2021 NFL draft. The career mode begins with the chance to train with and compete against some of the best players in the NFL at Nike headquarters. Along the way, you're given the opportunity to improve your draft stock via college football playoff, NFL team interviews, and private workouts with select teams. Build your brand by taking part in events that are exclusive to top prospects and pros. Additionally, you have a chance to meet and interact with a diverse cast of characters who are both invested in your success and their own individual quest for greatness. You'll learn that managing your time and obligations is a big part of stardom early on. When you're invited to a Hawaiian charity game conflicts with a Nike-sponsored exhibition match in the heart of NYC, the choice is down to you. Depending on your pick, you'll travel to a unique venue and line up alongside a distinct cast of NFL stars in some yard-inspired 6 vs 6 Ironman football. Once you've overcome your chosen challenge, you'll get different rewards and opportunities in the aftermath, giving you a good reason to come back and play through again. From flashback games at the height of your college football career to interviews with prospective NFL teams, your words and actions on and off the field will drive your draft stock. There's no doubt you're a top pick, but competition at the upper echelons is fierce. Show you have what it takes to go as high as you can. So let me interject really quickly here. One good thing off the bat is it does sound like they've done away completely with the corny stories, the made-for-TV sappy stuff, which is a good step. It's still a story that's putting you in a particular path. We'll talk more about that later in the video. I'm fine with them putting you in a particular path because it is a prologue. They kind of have to make some type of a story for it to make sense. I'm just glad it sounds like they're keeping it simple. They're just going, you know, you're a top prospect. How high you actually go is up to you. Just regular path to the draft type stuff. You don't have to play through the corny, cinematic, weird stories that no one's interested in. I think that's a good step, but we'll talk more on that later. Meet the cast. A diverse cast and face of the franchise revolves around your rise to NFL superstardom. And here is a list of the cast. You can see you have a defensive and offensive coordinator. I would assume maybe this is like when you're in college. There's a podcast host, NFL analyst. You have a trainer. You have an agent. You have a manager. You also have a mentor. So a decent amount of people that you have to interact with. Hopefully, you know, it's kind of dynamic and there's definitely different, you know, choices and options to make here. Otherwise, you know, that takes away from the mode we've seen in years past. It hasn't really been too dynamic, so hopefully this year it is. Class progression system. New this year in Madden 22 is the concept of classes that define how you play each position on the field. There are 4 positions this year to choose from: quarterback, wide receiver, halfback, and for the first time, a defensive position, linebacker. Each position has several classes to choose from to reflect a specific play style on the field. Each class features 3 superstar abilities and 1 X-Factor ability for you to unlock as you level up in that class. These abilities play into how you perform on the field and can even be customized to your specific playstyle and needs. Each class can equip superstar and X-Factor abilities earned from other classes if they've been unlocked. The more you play, the more you can customize. So let me interject really quickly here. This is basically what they did in the Yard last year. They're just kind of taking this over to face of the franchise. I do hope it's more in depth though, because the Yard version of this was very simplified. But basically, you can level up each prototype, and as you're leveling up each different prototype, each different position, at a certain point of leveling them up, they get a unique superstar ability that is unique to what their actual prototype is. But once you unlocked all these different abilities, you can then go equip them on other prototypes, which I think for the Yard is fine because it's a more arcade style. I don't know how much I like that for face of the franchise because that's supposed to be more of a sim or realistic vibe, and you know, certain abilities just would not make sense on certain builds, you know, you would say. So I'm not really sure how this is all going to work out. That's kind of a weird one right there, but you can unlock all these different prototype abilities, and then you can really customize your character more so. And so that's kind of what they're doing there. Next up, we have class rewards. Along with X Factor and Superstar abilities, leveling up classes not only earns you skill points to boost your overall and skill ratings, but you can earn cred, rep, and exclusive gear for the yard to make your avatar shine brighter. Earn class rep by competing on the field. Everything you do matters to how quickly you level up your class to help earn rewards quicker. Padding your stats can go a long way. Complete special actions that earn you even more rep. Begin leveling up your classes inside of Road to the Draft when starting Face of the Franchise, and continue to build your avatar throughout your rookie season in the NFL and beyond. Strive to become one of the greatest at your position. With our unified class progression, you can also take your class into the yard to level up even more, and we'll have more details on that coming soon. So I like that they're doing like more integration with this. Again, when you look at the blueprint, it's what 2K has with My Career in the Park. This stuff is still a long way away from being what that is, but I like that they're integrating it, because I think for this to really work long term, you have to integrate it. The yard has to be evolved on, it has to become bigger, and the progression between both has to exist. So I do like that they're doing that, but trust me, from what we know so far, this still has a very long way to go before it's anything on that level. Career Hub. At the center of your new avatar career experience is the all-new Career Hub. Here, you'll have access to all the info to make key decisions and take on new challenges in Road to the Draft and your NFL season. Scenarios, side activities, and class progression will be a simple click away in this hub, so you can level up your class and earn rep and create your NFL fantasy through your choices. So basically, it's the same as the Franchise Hub. They're just using it also for Face of the Franchise, which makes sense. It's more streamlined, and it's just kind of all of the information you need is right in your face, right off jump. Podcast. There are 70 plus podcast segments composed of interviews, mic'd up clips, opinions, and trivia with story beats based on your career performance and choices. The podcasts begin in Road to the Draft with The Rich Eisen Show and continue in the NFL with two more hosts, Kevin Connors and Nia Polanco from our fictional cast. Now this right here I really like. I would just also add that they should definitely integrate this in the franchise. If it works here, I don't see why it wouldn't work in franchise. And to me, this is like the 2021 version of having the Tony Bruno Show, which so many people loved and so many people want to come back to franchise. This is the updated version. You have your updated media, you have your sports shows, you have your podcast where people are constantly talking about your performance, certain things you do on and off the field. It's going to turn into a news story. It's also a good place for you to go on shows and give interviews. I like this, again, so long as it makes sense. The problem with the past stuff in this mode is that stories and things that would tie into your career just didn't make sense, and the things you chose wouldn't make sense half the time either. That's really the key. Will it make sense? But I like this because this helps tie things together. Otherwise, you're just playing game after game after game. You need things in between, especially with the career mode, to tie things together and make it more of an actual living story instead of you just going on the field and playing every week. So I do like this. I just really hope that it is integrated well. Season Engine. At the heart of this year's career mode is the enhanced Season Engine. Start the week by completing a side activity to earn buffs for the week ahead, then play through various weekly storylines that set up new challenges and gameplay moments while affecting other scenarios throughout the season. You'll take on different challenges based on how you and your team perform throughout each season. Getting off to a fast start on the season comes with expectations to keep the win streak alive. Maybe you had a soft schedule to start and need to prove to the league that you and your team are legit contenders by defeating one of the NFL's top teams. There are even more scenarios to experience in Face of the Franchise, all dependent on how you and your team are performing. There will be dozens of scenarios that can trigger, all based on your position, team, and weekly performance. Side activities. On a weekly basis, players will be asked how they want to spend their spare time. As an elite athlete, every moment is another chance for growth. Players can select one of up to 3 different opportunities available each week, each granting their own unique buff or reward. This allows players to evolve in a way that best suits them and their playstyle, such as the pursuit of short-term glory with large but temporary ratings buffs, or longer-term improvement with small, permanent buffs, bonus rep, and cred. There are 4 categories to different buffs: mental focus, physical recovery, team bonding, and my brand. No 2 weeks will offer the same set of side activities, with some being much rarer than others. Every playthrough of this year's Face of the Franchise will add a new layer of variance and strategy each time around. Here's an example. It's week 3 of the regular season, and you've got your weekly side activity choices laid out for you. Fan meet and greet, which is uncommon. You would get 100 plus cred, plus 20 morale for the entire team for 1 week. You can do a team film study, which is common. You would get 100 rep and 100 XP for the entire team. You can do weight training, with the O-line, which is a rare scenario, which would give you 3+ strength for the entire O-line permanently. Each option offers its own unique benefits. It's tempting to let the rare permanent buff to your O-line get away, but maybe the +20 morale to your team for the week is just what you need to get past a tough opponent in a critical game. Ultimately, it's all down to how you want to play. Now, these last couple things we just went over, I like. Again, one of the main things that made this mode so bad the last couple years is that the scenario engine just sucked. Now, that's clearly better this year because from playing the beta in franchise mode, it was much improved. I mean, night and day difference from how bad it was the last 2 years, so that's a plus, and I think that can help this mode out. The side activity stuff is cool. This is stuff you see in 2K. It's kind of like, you know, it just should be there. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just something that should be there. It's not anything that's gonna make or break the mode, like, don't get it twisted, but it just should be there. Like, this is basic stuff that's expected of career modes and stuff like that in today's gaming world. So I like this. You have to make decisions, and that can give you certain buffs and stuff like that for your team. That's cool. I'm all right with that. Pressure moments. Throughout your career, you'll be dropped into some unique scenarios like bouncing back from a slow start to your season or having to make a comeback after a lightning storm delays the game. Pressure moments are intended to give you an immersive experience while facing challenges and situations that NFL athletes deal with throughout a season. We also enhanced the presentation. If you're playing on the Xbox Series X or PS5, you'll get the added feature of dynamic game day integration into the pressure moments. So here's my thoughts on all of this, right? Is it going to be better than the last 2 years? That's impossible to know because we haven't played this yet. It wasn't even available in the beta. The last 2 years had potential to be good for what it was. It just wasn't good. The story sucked. There was too many bugs. The decisions you made didn't matter. It felt like you were just going to kind of end up where you were going to end up regardless. And those were the things that held this mode back. And what I've kind of realized about this mode is that it's not like a from the ground up career mode, which I think is what a lot of people want, myself included. I think the problem with that is it's hard to have a from the ground up career mode when you don't have the NCAA game. So now you're kind of forced to have a prologue. You have to have some kind of a story because you kind of have to speed up the process to getting to the NFL because you can't create the entirety of what you can do in NCAA and drop that into a Madden career mode, right? And 2K is kind of similar. The one thing that 2K that makes it feel more from the ground up is that your player just absolutely sucks to the point where you kind of have to spend money to jumpstart them because it's definitely a heavily monetized mode for 2K, and that's probably why they do it that way. That's really the only thing that makes 2K's feel from the ground up is that your player is so awful that like it's actually a challenge to get him good if you don't spend a little bit of money. Whereas with Madden, your player is decent enough to kind of start out, but the stories that they've been integrating with it before just sucked. I think this year they kind of took that feedback from what it sounds like. They're keeping it simple. Hey, we have to give you some type of a story. You're going to be a top prospect, which is what most people are playing this game to be. They want to be a top prospect. They want to kind of go high in the draft and then kind of build out a Hall of Fame career. So hey, you're a top prospect. You're going to play a little bit of college. They didn't even touch on the college team, so I'm assuming they're just not changing, and they're going to kind of just drop you into some college football playoff games, and it's fine. You're a top prospect. You're either going to go at the top of the first round, or depending on what you do, hopefully it all makes sense and matters, you might fall to the end of the first round like we see top prospects do all the time. It's really just going to all come down to a few things. Is the story good? Is it simple and just kind of makes sense? Are the interactions with the cast going to matter and be meaningful? Are your decisions going to be meaningful to how you play and perform? And then the biggest thing I think is once you get to the NFL, it's going to be a lot about the scenario or season engine. Do those scenarios matter? Do they make sense? Does it feel rewarding to play and level up your guy? Because in the past 2 years, nothing about the mode felt rewarding. Nothing about the story made sense. Nothing about your decisions mattered. And that's why the mode was bad. However, when NCAA comes back in a year or two, I think that's when things are just fully realized, because then you don't have to force a story. You create your own story by playing NCAA. You played through high school, you played through 3 years of college, and then that is going to be the big part of what decides where you get drafted. When you port that guy over to Madden, then you don't need a story because you've already created your story. Once you get to Madden, you just have to have the combine, team workouts, interviews, and then that can slightly maybe alter where you go. Then you jump into career mode, and then hopefully, you know, the scenario engine and things like that keep getting built out, and then the NFL portion is just as good as the NCAA portion. I think that's when you're going to really get the from the ground up, because with NCAA you can actually start from the ground up. So we'll see how this plays out. It's been really bad the last 2 years. Reading this, it's hard to say that it's going to be good or not, because it sounded better last year and the year before that, and it wound up not being good. So hopefully this year they've actually made some improvements to make it better and more rewarding. But that's going to be it. I'll see you guys next time.